AITA for ruining my future SIL's wedding-to-be? I'm a 30-year-old guy, and for the past 2 years, I've been sharing my life with my amazing boyfriend, Alex, who's 34. We've built a life together filled with laughter, late-night conversations, and cozy evenings on the couch, binge-watching our favorite shows. But our relationship has always had this lingering shadow, and that shadow takes the form of my mother. Ever since I came out as bi right after college, it was like a switch flipped in her. She went from being the somewhat overbearing but still loving mom I knew growing up to this hostile stranger. It was as if she had a meticulously crafted blueprint in her head of what her son ought to be, and me being true to my identity just didn't fit into that rigid framework. All through my formative years, she was an absolute control freak. I can still vividly recall the day I first stumbled upon knitting. It was during a visit to a friend's place. Their mom had a knitting kit lying around, and I was instantly intrigued. As I picked up the needles and started working with the yarn, I was completely captivated. There was something so therapeutic about the repetitive motions, the way the soft strands slipped through my fingers, and the sheer joy of seeing a unique creation take shape, even if it was just a simple, lopsided scarf at first. But when I brought my newfound passion home, my mother had a complete meltdown. One sunny afternoon, I bounced through the front door after school, eager to work on my latest knitting project. Instead, I was met with a scene of chaos. My room had been ransacked, all my knitting needles, the vibrant bundles of yarn in every shade imaginable, and the carefully collected patterns I'd painstakingly printed out gone. She'd simply tossed them in the trash without a moment's hesitation, her face flushed red with anger as she snarled that it wasn't a proper hobby for a boy. I was seething with rage. I confronted her, my voice trembling with a mix of anger and hurt, and told her it was her own damn fault for shipping me off to an all-boys school where I was bound to explore different interests and interact with diverse personalities. Despite my mother's rejection, I've been incredibly fortunate to have my siblings as my unwavering support system. They've been my pillars of strength, my safe haven in the storm. My older brother, Ben, has always held a special place in my heart. We've shared countless memories, from sneaking downstairs in the dead of night to raid the fridge for leftover pizza and ice cream, giggling like little kids as we tried not to wake anyone up, to lying on our backs in the backyard on warm summer nights, staring up at the twinkling stars and sharing our wildest dreams and aspirations. Ben's been with his girlfriend Lily for a solid 5 years now, and they'd set their sights on tying the knot in July 2022. Lily, on the surface, is a truly wonderful girl. She's got a heart of gold, always remembers everyone's birthdays with a thoughtful card or a small gift, and can crack a joke that has us all doubled over in laughter. But her family, well, that's where things take a turn for the worse. They're just as deeply entrenched in their homophobic beliefs as my mother. And wouldn't you believe it, our mothers hit it off from the very start. They're constantly getting together for coffee dates, gossiping and chatting away as if they're long-lost best friends. They even go shopping for wedding decorations together, poring over fabric swatches and flower arrangements with equal enthusiasm. It's been a nightmare scenario for me, really, because it means I've had to tread carefully around my own mom, always on edge, dreading the moment she might start in on me about my lifestyle choices. As the wedding preparations kicked into high gear, I was genuinely over the moon for Ben. I mean, he's my big brother, the one who taught me how to ride a bike without training wheels, who stood up for me when the neighborhood bullies came around, puffing out his chest and looking all tough. I wanted this day to be nothing short of perfect for him. But then, the fateful invitation arrived. I remember the exact moment I opened the mailbox and saw that thick, cream-colored envelope. My heart was pounding with anticipation as I tore it open. But as soon as I scanned the contents, my excitement plummeted. There was no +1 for me. At first, I was in denial. I thought surely there must have been a mistake. I mean, I'd talked to my other siblings, and they'd all received their +1s without a hitch. So, I did what any reasonable person would do. I reached out to Lily. I knew she was the mastermind behind the guest list and RSVPs, juggling a million details to make sure the big day went off without a hitch. I pulled out my phone, my fingers trembling slightly as I typed out the text, trying my hardest to sound casual and polite. "Hey Lily, I think there might be a mix-up with my invitation. I didn't get a +1. Just wanted to check if it was an error." She replied within minutes, and her words hit me like a ton of bricks. She said they had to cut down on the invites because of COVID, but I knew there was a load of baloney. I'd already had conversations with my siblings, and they'd all been given the green light to bring a guest. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. Alex, who's not only my partner but also super tight with Ben, they were inseparable during their uni days and still meet up regularly to game online, trash-talking each other in the most affectionate way, their voices booming through the headphones as they competed, was standing right beside me when I got the news. His face fell, and I could see the disappointment mirrored in his eyes. It was like a slap in the face. Here I was, ready to put on my best suit and dance the night away at my brother's wedding. And now it seemed like I was being relegated to the sidelines, an afterthought. I decided I couldn't just let it slide. I needed to talk to Ben. I dialed his number, my heart racing as I waited for him to pick up. When he answered, I spilled the beans. Ben, there's something wrong with my invitation. Lily says it's because of COVID, but everyone else has a +1. He was silent for a moment, and then I heard his voice, filled with shock and disbelief. No way, bro. That's not right. I'll sort this out. A wave of relief washed over me. Knowing Ben had my back made me feel a bit better. But then, my phone started going crazy. Text after text from Lily came flooding in. She was livid that I'd gone to Ben. She wrote, "You should have just accepted the one invitation. I did this to avoid any issues with you and my family and your mother. I don't museo you and your boyfriend to be the center of attention at my wedding. I'll give you the +1, but you'll be ruining it." I was torn. On one hand, it was her wedding. She had the right to plan it how she wanted, to curate the guest list to make it her vision come true. But on the other, it felt so unjust. I couldn't bear the thought of subjecting Alex to the homophobia that I knew was simmering just beneath the surface. I reached out to my friends, desperate for some perspective. Most of them were firmly in my corner, outraged on my behalf. But a few, trying to be the voice of reason, said I should respect Lily's wishes since it was, after all, her big day. I just didn't know which way to turn. My head was spinning with conflicting emotions, and I felt like I was stuck between a rock and a hard place. That night, after the text exchange with Lily, I tossed and turned in bed, my mind a chaotic mess. Alex lay beside me, equally restless. We talked in hushed tones, going over the situation again and again. "I just don't get it," Alex muttered, his voice laced with frustration. "We've been to so many family gatherings together. Your brother loves us being a couple. Why is she doing this?" I sighed, running a hand through my hair. "I know. It's like she's trying to please everyone but us. I don't want to cause a scene at Ben's wedding, but I also can't pretend like this is okay." The next morning, I woke up with a pounding headache and a sense of dread in the pit of my stomach. I checked my phone, half expecting more angry texts from Lily, but there was nothing. I decided to call my sister, Mia, to get her take on the whole mess. Mia picked up on the second ring. "Hey, what's up? You sound stressed." I filled her in on everything, from the missing +1 on my invitation to Lily's blow-up. Mia was quiet for a moment, then said, "That's just not right. You and Alex should be there together. I'll talk to Ben if you want." "Thanks, Mia," I said, feeling a bit of relief. At least I had another ally in the family. Later that day, Ben called me. His voice was strained. "I talked to Lily. She's really upset, but I told her it's not fair to you. She said she's willing to give you the +1, but she's still worried about how her family will react." I groaned. "So, what am I supposed to do? Walk into a hornet's nest of homophobia with Alex by my side? That's not exactly a recipe for a great time." Ben sighed. "I know, bro. I don't want you to feel uncomfortable, but I also don't want to start my marriage on the wrong foot with Lily. It's a tough spot." I understood where he was coming from, but it didn't make me feel any better. I told Ben I needed some time to think and hung up. Alex and I decided to meet up with some of our closest friends that evening. We needed to blow off some steam and get some unbiased advice. At the bar, we recounted the whole story from start to finish. Our friend, Sam, shook his head. "You can't let her get away with this. It's your brother's wedding, but you have a right to be there with your partner. If her family has a problem, that's on them, not you." Another friend, Jess, chimed in, "But it is her day. Maybe you could go to the ceremony alone and meet Alex after? That way, you're still showing support, but you're not rubbing anyone the wrong way." I sipped my beer, mulling over their words. It all sounded so complicated. I just wanted to celebrate my brother's happiness without feeling like I was sacrificing my own. Back at home, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. Alex cuddled up beside me. "Whatever you decide, I'm with you," he whispered. I turned to him, tears welling up in my eyes. I don't want to lose my brother, but I don't want to lose my dignity either. How did it come to this? Alex wiped away my tears. "We'll figure it out. Together." The next few days were a blur of anxiety and indecision. I went through the motions at work, my mind constantly wandering back to the wedding dilemma. Every time I thought about it, my stomach knotted up tighter. I decided to have a heart-to-heart with my mother. I knew it was a long shot, but I hoped that maybe, just maybe, she'd soften over the years. I called her up and asked if we could meet for coffee. She sounded hesitant, but agreed. When we met at the local cafe, the air was thick with tension. We made small talk for a few minutes, but it felt forced. Finally, I took a deep breath and said, "Mom, I got Ben's wedding invitation, and there was no +1 for me. Lily said it was because of COVID, but I know that's not true. It's because of Alex, isn't it? My mother's face hardened. She looked down at her coffee cup and said, I just don't think it's appropriate for you to bring him. It's a family event, and some people might not understand. I felt a surge of anger. Mom, he is family. He's been in my life for 2 years. And you know what? I'm tired of hiding who I am and who I love because of what other people might think. She glared at me. Well, I don't want any drama at your brother's wedding. It's his big day, and I won't have you ruining it. I stood up, my chair scraping loudly against the floor. I'm not trying to ruin anything, but I won't be pushed aside either. You've made your feelings clear, but I'm not going to let you dictate my life anymore. I stormed out of the cafe, tears streaming down my face. I couldn't believe how cold she was. I'd hoped for some glimmer of acceptance, but all I got was more rejection. When I got home, Alex was waiting for me. He took one look at my face and pulled me into a hug. I sobbed into his shoulder, telling him what had happened. That's it, he said, his voice firm. We're not going to put up with this. If they don't want us there together, then we won't go at all. I nodded, still crying. I knew he was right. I couldn't subject us to that kind of disrespect. Later that night, Ben called again. He sounded desperate. I heard you talk to Mom. Please don't let this come between us. I want you at my wedding. I sniffled. Ben, I love you, but I can't go if Alex isn't welcome. He's my partner, and I won't pretend otherwise. Ben was silent for a moment. I understand. I'll talk to Lily again. I don't want to lose you over this. I hung up, feeling a tiny bit of hope. Maybe Ben could convince Lily, but I wasn't holding my breath. The next day, I got a text from Lily. It read, I'm sorry for how I've acted. I've been thinking a lot, and I realize I was wrong. You and Alex are welcome at the wedding. Please come. I showed the text to Alex. He raised an eyebrow. Do you believe her? I shrugged. I don't know, but I want to give her the benefit of the doubt. For Ben's sake. Even though Lily's text had offered a glimmer of hope, the unease in my gut didn't dissipate. Alex and I spent the next couple of days tiptoeing around the topic, both of us secretly wondering if we were walking into a trap. We decided to meet with Ben and Lily in person to talk things through. The four of us sat down at a quiet diner, the clinking of cutlery and murmured conversations around us providing a strange backdrop to our tense discussion. Ben looked exhausted, his eyes pleading with me to understand. Lily, on the other hand, seemed nervous, her fingers fidgeting with a napkin on her lap. I cleared my throat and started. Lily, we got your text, but we need to be sure. What changed? I don't want any surprises on the wedding day. Lily glanced at Ben and then back at me. I really thought about what you said. I realized I was being unfair. I was so focused on keeping everyone happy that I ended up hurting you and Alex. It was wrong, and I'm sorry. Alex leaned forward, his elbows on the table. We appreciate the apology, but how do we know your family will be okay with us? We don't want to be the cause of any awkwardness or drama. Ben chimed in. I've talked to Lily's parents. I told them how important you two are to me. They didn't say much, but I think they understand. At least, they're willing to be civil. I raised an eyebrow. Civil? That's not exactly a ringing endorsement. Ben sighed. I know it's not perfect, but I want you both there. It won't be the same without you. Please, give it a chance. Alex and I exchanged a long look. We both knew how much this meant to Ben, and deep down, we wanted to be there to celebrate his big day. But the fear of facing more homophobia was still very real. After a moment, I nodded. Okay, we'll come. But if anything happens, if we feel uncomfortable in the slightest, we're leaving. And I mean it. Lily nodded vigorously. Of course. I'll make sure everything goes smoothly. The days leading up to the wedding were a strange mix of anticipation and dread. We picked out our outfits, trying to find the right balance between looking great and not drawing too much unwanted attention. Alex kept cracking jokes to lighten the mood, but I could tell he was just as anxious as I was. On the day of the wedding, we arrived at the venue early. It was a beautiful outdoor setting, with flowers blooming everywhere and a soft breeze rustling the leaves. As we walked in, I scanned the crowd for any signs of disapproval. So far, so good. But then, as we were taking our seats, I overheard a whispered comment from one of Lily's relatives. I can't believe he brought his boyfriend. It's not right. My heart sank, but I tried to ignore it. Alex squeezed my hand, a silent reminder that we were in this together. The ceremony itself was beautiful. Ben and Lily looked so happy, and I couldn't help but smile through my nerves. But during the reception, things started to get a bit rocky. A few of Lily's family members were giving us dirty looks, and I could feel the tension building. I leaned over to Alex and whispered, I don't know if we can stay much longer. He nodded in agreement. Just as we were about to get up, Ben noticed and came over. What's wrong? he asked, his brow furrowed with concern. I gestured to the people staring at us. It's a bit much, Ben. We don't want to ruin your night, but this isn't comfortable. Ben's face fell. I'm so sorry. I'll handle it. He walked over to the group and said something in a low voice. The stares stopped, but the damage was done. After Ben intervened, the rest of the reception was a muted affair for Alex and me. We stayed for a while longer, mostly for Ben's sake, but the joy had been sucked out of the evening. As we drove home, the silence in the car was deafening. Alex finally broke it. I knew this was going to happen. I hate that we had to go through that. I sighed. Me too. But at least we tried, and Ben knows we care about him. When we got home, I sent Ben a text thanking him for trying to make things right and told him we were okay. He replied almost immediately, saying he was sorry again and that he hoped we could all move past this. In the days that followed, I couldn't shake off the feeling of disappointment. I'd always looked forward to being a part of my brother's big day without any reservations, and now it felt tainted. But then, something unexpected happened. Lily called me. She sounded hesitant at first. I just wanted to check in and see how you and Alex were doing. I know the wedding didn't go as smoothly as I hoped for you two. I was taken aback. We're okay. Just a bit bummed, you know? She was quiet for a moment. I wanted to say that I'm really committed to making things better. What happened was unacceptable, and I don't want it to be like this in the future. I talked to my family after the wedding, and I made it clear that you and Alex are important to me and Ben, and they need to respect that. I was skeptical. Really? And how do they take it? Lily sighed. It wasn't easy. There was some pushback, but I stood my ground. I don't want to lose you as a friend, and I don't want to cause any more rifts in the family. I felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe she was being sincere. Thanks, Lily. That means a lot. We'll see how things go. Over the next few weeks, we started seeing small changes. Lily would invite us over for dinner with her and Ben, and her family members who were at the wedding were noticeably more polite. It wasn't a complete transformation, but it was a start. One evening, as we were all sitting around the table, laughing and chatting, I realized that our relationship had shifted. We'd been through a tough time, but it had forced us all to confront our issues and grow. Ben looked at me and said, I'm glad we made it through this. You and Alex mean the world to me, and I don't ever want to lose you again. I smiled. We're not going anywhere, bro. We're family, after all. Alex nodded in agreement. Yeah, and we've learned that we have to stand up for ourselves and each other, but also that forgiveness and second chances can lead to something good. As we left their place that night, I felt a sense of peace. Our journey had been rocky, but we'd come out the other side stronger. And as I looked at Alex, I knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, we'd face them together.